Lone Farmer's Amazing Discovery, How 3 Virgins Transformed His Life Forever. In the heart of Appalachia, where laughter faded to whispers, Henry toiled. At 38, the modest farmer, weighed down by unrealized dreams and the legacy of his family's expectations, rose before dawn to work the soil that had nourished generations. The field stretched before him, vibrant yet mocking, their beauty a stark contrast to the gloom that clung to his heart. Each day felt heavier than the last, his soul yearning for a glimmer of hope in a world that celebrated the loud and the lavish while he remained invisible. One rainy afternoon, while clearing debris from long-abandoned barn boards, Henry stumbled upon an old, weathered journal hidden beneath a loose floorboard. As rain pelted the tin roof, he pried it open, and the fragile pages revealed tales of 3 remarkable women virgins whose lives were woven into the very fabric of the nation. Each story dripped with grit and grace, their struggles echoing his own. Inspiration washed over him like the rain outside, temporarily lifting the weight of his solitude as they taught him the true essence of success. Courage in the face of adversity. Henry dove deeper into those worn pages. Each woman's journey ignited a spark within him. Their triumphs and tears resonated, whispering that he wasn't alone in this struggle. Hope wrapped around him like a warm blanket, banishing the chill of despair. He envisioned transforming his community, a dream long buried beneath layers of doubt and resignation. Gathering neighbors, he proposed a local co-op, a lifeline amid economic despair. Together, they could breathe life into a wilted town, fostering sustainability and solidarity, but the shadows of skepticism cast long. Heated debates erupted over tradition versus progress, straining families already teetering on the brink. Voices clashed, fueled by fear of change and nostalgia for the past. Henry felt it in his chest, the tightness, the fear, the urgency. He pressed on, strengthened by the women's bravery. As the co-op found its footing, its growth sparked ire among local officials, who threatened to shut them down on flimsy zoning laws. Injustice curled around Henry like an iron grip. Would he allow their dreams to wither? Each heartbeat echoed with the essence of the 3 women, their resilience fierce in his mind, their courage demanding action. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Determined, Henry organized a town meeting, rallying his friends and neighbors. As he stood before the crowd, raw emotions swirled, some eager for change, others clinging to what was familiar. He began to speak, his voice steady yet laced with passion. He shared his vision, a future where character mattered more than riches. The room buzzed with anticipation, hope and fear intertwining. In that charged moment, a question loomed heavy in the air: would they rise together to defend their dignity and values, or would they yield to the suffocating weight of conformity? Henry's heart raced, uncertainty thick as fog. What would they choose when confronted with the chance to redefine their lives? Henry stood in front of the gathering, the scent of damp earth mixed with hope lingering in the air. Faces flickered in the dim light of the town hall, some set with determination, others clouded by doubt. The weight of his words pressed like shadows against his heart, but he pushed through, recalling the stories of the 3 women. They had fought against the tide of their circumstances, and he felt their spirits bolstering his resolve. Each of you knows what it's like to struggle, he began, his voice rising. This co-op isn't just about farming. It's about our future, our children's future. We can create something beautiful together. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Henry watched as old Mrs. Thompson, a wise matriarch with years etched into her skin, leaned forward. And what if it fails, Henry? What if all this talk leads us into ruin? Her eyes held years of hard-earned caution, a vulnerability he could feel in the air. But what if it succeeds, he countered, the question tumbling out before he could second-guess himself. The room fell silent, and for a beat, he could almost hear the heartbeat of the community thrumming around him. We've been stuck for too long. The bills are piling up, and there's no way to make progress unless we step out of our comfort zones. We owe it to ourselves and to those who came before us. Young faces flashed with eagerness, the farmers' sons and daughters looked at one another, their eyes lighting up at the thought of change. Yet still, doubt lingered in the corners, gnawing at the edges like weeds in a garden. "Isn't that just wishful thinking?" a voice called from the back, its tone sharp and filled with skepticism. It was Jake, a local who had never been shy about voicing his discontent. "What about the cost? The risks? We're sticking our necks out for what? A dream?" Henry felt a jolt in his chest. A dream. Yes, but it's a dream worth having. All the women in that journal I found went after what they believed in, despite the odds. They didn't wait for tomorrow, they made today count. There were nods around the room, but Henry needed more than agreement, he needed action. Mustering his courage, he pressed on. Let us not wait for someone to tell us we can succeed. Let us be the ones who create our own destiny. We can sign up for a community meeting, share our knowledge, our resources, and build something together. A ripple of energy sparked, igniting hope where despair had lingered. Even Jake looked momentarily stricken, uncertainty sparking behind his furrowed brow. Suddenly, a hand shot up from the back, a young woman named Clara, who whispered with passion. "I've been saving some money from my sales, I can help with the startup costs. We can figure this out as a team." With that simple declaration, the air shifted. Other hands began to rise, volunteers stepped forward promising time, resources, and support. Henry's heart soared. Life threaded through the crowd like a lifeline, promising resurgence and unity. As the meeting descended into a flurry of plans and gestures, Henry thought about the three women from the journal. They hadn't just survived, they had thrived against odds stacked high. Could he, too, be a vessel for change? He felt his own resilience start to swell, but just as the momentum peaked, the doors to the town hall creaked open. A heavy-set man in a suit stepped inside, the town's zoning officer, Mr. Carver. His expression was grim, eyes narrowed with dissatisfaction. Silence enveloped the room. "What's going on here?" he barked, his voice slicing through the warmth of the moment. "I've been hearing whispers about this co-op of yours. Let me remind you, the law is the law. You risk everything with this venture." With a single look, he sent a chill racing through the room, and Henry's heart dropped. The fragile beginnings of hope now dangled precariously. How would they face this looming threat? Would the dreams they began to forge survive the chill of the law? As fear rippled through the crowd, the weight of their journey took a sudden, sharp turn. Could they rise again? Even when the odds seemed stacked against them? Henry felt the air suffocate around him. Mr. Carver's presence acted like a hand squeezing the breath from his throat. Fear hung in the silence, palpable and heavy. He glanced around at the faces in the crowd. Some looked resolute, but many were frozen in shock. The hopeful energy from moments before began to fade, swallowed by the looming reality of fear and potential failure. "Doesn't anyone care about the risks we're taking?" Mr. Carver continued, assigning blame with each grave word. "You think you can just band together, break the law, and everything will be fine? Think again." Henry's pulse quickened. Did they really want this? Could they face retaliation for daring to dream? But staring into the eyes of Clara and others who had raised their hands in support, a fire ignited within him. "We are not breaking any laws," he interjected, his voice taut but steady. "We want to work together for our community. That has to mean something." Mrs. Thompson, sensing the tension build, stood up slowly. "Mr. Carver, if I may," she said in a tone that held the authority of years. All eyes moved towards her. "We are tired of being afraid. This is about survival. If we don't try, what's left for our children? We've faced tough times before. Together, we found our way. Isn't that worth pursuing now?" Her words hung in the air, sending ripples of realization through the gathering. The room seemed to exhale, the tension easing slightly as people shifted in their seats, contemplating Mrs. Thompson's courage. Henry hoped that her wisdom would strike a chord with Mr. Carver too. Perhaps, he replied, sounding less certain. But hope is not a plan, and dreams don't fill bellies. This town needs stability. A heart-wrenching silence settled once more. Henry could see the light of determination flicker in Clara's eyes, and it spurred him on. "You're right about one thing, Mr. Carver," Henry said, feeling emboldened. "Hope needs a plan. And that's exactly what we're creating here tonight. We are not asking for permission, we are building something real together." Heads nodded again, and murmurs emerged, waves of agreement rising like a tide. Even Jake's solid demeanor softened. With that resounding unity, Henry felt weight anchor into purpose. Mr. Carver studied him, measuring Henry with a narrow gaze, and after what felt like an eternity, he shrugged. "Good luck to you then. But don't say I didn't warn you." With that, he turned on his heel and left, the door swinging shut with a definitive thud that echoed in the room. A collective sigh released the tension, releasing steam in a pot about to burst over the flame. A newly forged camaraderie touched fingers with hope again, and one by one, they began to articulate ideas, plans forming like seedlings breaking through soil. Henry's heart raced with exhilaration and dread combined. The co-op dream was alive. Now, it was up to them to tend to it, defend it, help it grow, but as they began to map out their next steps, Clara turned to Henry, her brow furrowed. "What if Carver reports this to the town council? What if they shut us down before we even start?" The question struck hard, sending ripples of doubt once more. Henry swallowed hard. Reality was creeping back in, and there were no easy answers. The momentum they gained felt fragile, like a freshly planted seedling vulnerable to frost. Looking into Clara's worried eyes, he wondered, could they truly withstand the challenges ahead? Would they yield to fear, or fight against the odds, nurturing their small flame into a roaring fire of possibility? With each heartbeat, the future loomed larger, a tangled path filled with hope and hardship. What choices would they make to defend their dreams against the chilling hand of reality? Henry's stomach twisted at Clara's words. He could feel the collective anxiety rising in the room again, each pulse of worry a reminder of how quickly hope could dim. He opened his mouth to speak, but all he could muster was a fleeting, uncertain smile. They needed to pull together, but fear loomed larger than ever. "Let us not dwell on the negatives," he said, trying to rally their spirits. "Instead, let us focus on what we can control. We can put together a plan that makes our intentions clear. We're not sneaking around. We're creating a space for all of us." The murmurs quieted, but not all expressions shifted to hope. Jake shifted in his chair, clearly agitated. "And what if the council shuts us down? What happens then? We'd just be a bunch of dreamers with nothing to show for it." "That's a risk we have to take, Jake," Clara replied, her voice firmer now. "If we don't try, we'll lose everything. There's power in numbers, and we are more than dreamers. We are neighbors, friends, and advocates for change." Nods of agreement rippled through the crowd again, but tension still crackled in the air. Henry felt the weight of every gaze on him, curious, anxious, expectant. He needed to seize this fragile moment. "Let us break down our vision," he suggested. "We know we want a co-op. We know we have passionate people ready to step up." He glanced around, locking eyes with Clara, who smiled back, encouraging and steadfast. "What resources do we have? Who can contribute? Together, we can build something beautiful." Mrs. Thompson stood again, her eyes alight with fire. "I could provide the space. My barn is underutilized, and we can turn it into our first communal hub." "Great!" Henry exclaimed, fueled by renewed enthusiasm. Jake raised his hand now, clearly more open to the idea. "And I can help with the farming supplies. Got a good line on a local supplier." As they spoke, voices grew louder, ideas flowing like a rushing river, drowning out the whispers of doubt. Plans began to take shape, sourcing fresh produce, organizing community workshops, and disseminating their message to draw in more support. But as enthusiasm soared, Henry felt an unsettling unease gnawing at him. It's great that we're coming together now, but what if we face backlash from the council? He chose his words carefully. We need to have a defense, a response plan ready if the worst should come. That brought a pause, explanations overlapping as worry crept back in. Henry could see Clara's shoulders tense, fear flickering in her eyes again. Maybe we should set up a meeting with someone in the council, feel them out. Now you're thinking, Jake said, nodding. But just as this thought gained momentum, the door swung open, and in walked Mr. Carver's looming shadow once more, an unmistakable scowl on his face. The air shifted, tension replacing enthusiasm instantly. You all are still here, he said, his voice carrying the weight of disapproval. What on earth could you be plotting now? Henry's heart raced. Dread settled firmly in his chest as he exchanged glances with Clara. Had Carver been eavesdropping? Did they dare express their dreams more openly now? As silence fell, the crowd seemed to brace itself, pairing trepidation with fragile hope. The precarious balance between their dreams and the looming threat felt more pressing than ever. And as Carver stepped closer, the fear felt like a storm on the horizon, threatening to drown their newfound energy. Would they let their spirits be crushed again, or would they band together to face this challenge head-on? Henry knew they stood at a crossroads, but which path would they choose in this moment of truth? Mr. Carver's gaze swept the room, settling on each face like a heavy fog. The sharp silence felt suffocating. Henry's heart pounded in his chest, each thump echoing his fear that their dreams were about to be shattered. I asked you a question, Carver said, his tone sharp, slicing through the charged atmosphere. What are you all still doing here? Clara stood tall, her determination brightening the fear in her eyes. We're not plotting anything terrible, Mr. Carver. We're discussing how to bring the community together. We want to create a positive space, a co-op where everyone can share and thrive. Carver scoffed, his skepticism palpable. And you think the council will approve this what? Fantasy of yours? It's an absurd idea, Clara. This will only draw attention to problems we don't need. Henry stepped forward, his voice steadier than he felt. But what if we could show them the benefits? We have solid ideas, resources, and a community willing to put in the work. He glanced around, searching for support. We're ready to improve our town, to grow together. Carver's eyes narrowed. And what if they consider it a threat? You think they'll let you operate unchecked? This town has rules, and you'll be breaking them if you pursue this. Fear curled like smoke in Henry's mind. He thought about everything they had already discussed. Their dreams hung precariously in the balance, ready to fall if they didn't act fast. What if we plan a presentation? Clara said, her voice rising with hope again. Show them how our vision aligns with the community's best interests. We can gather testimonies from folks who support it. Testimonies? Carver raised a brow, yet he could see interest flickering behind his stern demeanor. Do you really think that would suffice? Absolutely, Jake piped in, his earlier agitation fading. If we can highlight the benefits for everyone, access to local produce, education about sustainable practices, it might influence their decision. And if we show them the community backing us, it will be harder for them to dismiss us. I admire your spirit, but the council has a good grip on this town. They don't respond well to initiatives they didn't authorize, Carver warned, though his expression softened just a fraction. Clara took a tentative step forward, vulnerability woven through her voice. We understand the risks, Mr. Carver. But we can't sit back any longer. People are struggling, and we have a chance to help each other. For a brief moment, Henry watched Carver's expression shift slightly, as if he was reconsidering. He sensed the flicker of a chance, the slightest opportunity peeking through the dark clouds of despair. You all should be cautious, Carver finally said, but the edge of his voice seemed less severe. It could backfire. You might wind up in over your heads. Henry felt Clara's hand find his, grounding him, igniting a tiny spark of resoluteness. Even if we face challenges, we'll stand together. Isn't that what a community is about? He said, pitching his voice louder, firmer. Suddenly the door swung open again, an unexpected gust of wind swirling through, and in came Mrs. Thompson, her ponytail bouncing as she rushed in. I heard shouting. What's going on? The room shifted again, all eyes turning to her, some faces brightening as she added energy back into the space. I brought the petition forms. She waved them proudly, her confidence unflinching. We're ready to gather support and show them how great this could be. Henry's heart surged at the sight of the forms. See, we're already building momentum. As Clara, Jake, and Mrs. Thompson began to rally everyone, ideas sparking like fireworks, Henry felt a flood of hope wash over him. Perhaps they could truly turn the tide, but as a whisper of uncertainty crept back into the air, he couldn't shake the thought, what if Carver's warning proved true? What would happen if their dream slipped away before they even got started? And as they forged ahead, the shadow of the council loomed larger in Henry's mind. Would their dreams withstand the scrutiny, or would they need to confront deeper fears lurking just beneath the surface? The energy in the room surged, charged with newfound determination. Clara began composing her thoughts, outlining the ways they could present their vision. Let us divide tasks. I'll work on the presentation slides, but I need help gathering stories from the community. Can I count on you all? I can talk to the farmers, Jake chimed in, his voice laced with excitement. I know many of them have been struggling. They want to share their experiences. That'll add depth to our pitch. And I'll hit the neighborhoods. Henry's heart raced. People want change. I've seen how they light up at the mention of fresh produce and classes on farming techniques. They'll back us up. Mrs. Thompson nodded enthusiastically. I know a few families in town who want to sign the petition and lend their stories. They get it. They want to be heard. I'll head to the market and spread the word. Her eyes shone with hope, as if she was igniting a spark that would set the world ablaze. As they organized, Henry felt the weight of the council's scrutiny lift just a bit. Together, they were building something real. Each new idea felt like a brick in a wall they were constructing against the doubts that had been pestering him since Carver's warning. Remember, Clara said, folding the forms neatly and placing them in the center of the table, we need to be transparent. She took a deep breath, her voice steady. If we stumble upon obstacles, let us address them head-on. We'll be stronger together. Just as they were reaching a consensus, a soft knock punctuated the charged air. The door creaked open slightly, and in stepped old Mr. Jenkins, the town's unofficial historian. His presence, often gruff, carried a warmth that made every heart feel a bit lighter. Well, what's all this commotion? He asked, peering over his glasses. I haven't heard this much enthusiasm since we put on the fair last summer. It's a good sign. Henry felt a rush of gratitude flood through him. Mr. Jenkins, we're trying to start a co-op. We want the community to come together to share resources and create something sustainable for our families. Would you join us? The old man's eyes twinkled with nostalgia, his memories swimming back to days filled with community spirit. I'd gladly offer my stories of this town's past its roots. People need to remember where they came from if they want to move forward. It might really pull the heartstrings of the council. The group around the table erupted with excitement. Clara jotted down notes, enthusiasm pulsing through them all like a live current. This was more than an idea, it was beginning to feel like a movement. Each supporter added momentum, weaving a more vibrant tapestry that reflected their shared hopes, but amidst the joy and laughter, a shadow of fear lingered. Was it enough? What if the council didn't see the value? As their plans began to unfold, Henry couldn't shake the cold grip of uncertainty wrapping around his heart. That night, as Henry lay in bed, images of the launch presented themselves to his mind, a mix of smiling faces and corporate disinterest. He rolled over, trying to dispel the thoughts. What if they didn't get the approval? What if everything fell apart? His heart raced again as he realized, what if their dreams were more fragile than they thought? The following morning brought the promise of clarity. He jumped out of bed, determination fueling every step. They had to start now, they couldn't let doubt win. As he arrived at Clara's house to fine-tune their strategies, he caught the glint of a clipboard in her hand. "Ready for the first round of signatures?" she asked with a grin. "Absolutely," he replied, steeling himself. "Let us get those voices heard." But as the sun broke through the clouds, signaling a new day, Henry couldn't ignore the figure watching from the shadows of City Hall. Mr. Carver stood there, arms crossed, skepticism etched into his features. What plans did he have? What obstacles would they face next? This wasn't just about a co-op anymore, it felt like a reckoning was coming. Henry felt a knot tighten in his stomach as he locked eyes with Mr. Carver. The man was like a storm cloud hovering over their plans, casting doubt on everything they were trying to build. Henry took a deep breath, fighting the urge to retreat. He reminded himself of the passion sparking in the community. They were ready to make a change. "Let us focus on what we can control," Clara said, her voice steady, nudging Henry gently with her shoulder. "We can't let him intimidate us. We're doing this for the people." With renewed energy, they entered the town square, clipboard in hand. Clara organized the gathering, while Henry glanced around, searching for familiar faces. He spotted a few neighbors milling about, some chatting and others setting up stands. His heart lifted as he walked over to Mr. Hawkins, an older farmer with rough hands and a kind smile. "Mr. Hawkins. Got a moment?" "We're trying to rally support for the co-op," Henry called out, waving. With a nod, Mr. Hawkins approached and leaned against the stand. "Co-op, you say? Now that's an idea I can get behind. Times are tough for us farmers. What do you need?" "Signatures, stories, anything that shows the council how much we need this. It's not just about the food, it's our livelihoods." Henry's words poured out, his urgency palpable. As Mr. Hawkins listened, Clara approached nearby neighbors, chatting earnestly. Each conversation they had added fuel to their fire. Stories poured out of struggle, of hope, and of dreams for a vibrant community. Suddenly, loud laughter broke through the seriousness, drawing their attention. A group of children played nearby, their carefree joy a stark contrast to the weighty conversation surrounding the adults. Henry glanced at Clara, whose eyes sparkled with inspiration. "They're our future," she said, gesturing towards the kids. "This is about them. Having access to healthy food, fostering skills that could inspire them to grow." Henry nodded, understanding the deeper goal they were fighting for. Just then, a woman named Sarah approached, her arms crossed over her apron. Her brow bore a worried furrow. "Henry, Clara, I've heard about people pushing back against this co-op idea. They think it'll hurt the local businesses. Carver's been talking to them." Fear washed over Henry. "What? Why would they care about what we're trying to do?" Sarah shrugged, her eyes darting to the shadowy figure loitering outside the market. "Some folks just don't like change. They see it as a threat. I want to help, but I don't know if we can win." "Well, we are going to win," Clara replied fiercely. "We just have to share our truth loud enough for them to hear." Henry felt emboldened. "Can we count on you to share your story?" he asked Sarah earnestly. "I'll do it," she replied, her voice softening. "For the kids. They deserve a chance." Encouraged, Henry and Clara began to gather as many signatures as possible, their commitment strengthening with every individual they spoke to. But even as voices chorused around him, Henry's mind kept drifting back to Mr. Carver, to the council meetings looming ahead. Had they truly prepared enough? After a full morning, they gathered at the park's gazebo, signatures in hand. This isn't just a petition, Clara said, her voice electrifying the air. It's a movement, a reflection of everything we believe in. Just then, Henry noticed Mr. Carver stepping away from the shadows, a sly grin painting his face. His presence was like a weight pressing down. You think your little charm offensive will change anything? The man called out, chilling the sunny atmosphere. Why not? What are you so afraid of? Henry shot back, finding his own voice rising above the slight tremor, but Carver leaned in closer, his eyes narrowing. You're stirring up trouble, and you'll regret it. The tension was palpable, thick with unease. Henry's heart raced. Why did it feel like the battle was already beginning? With the sun sinking lower, casting long shadows, Henry knew the fight was only just starting. What would they do when facing the council with Carver watching over their shoulders? Would their community stand behind them? As questions swirled in his mind like a tempest, he realized they would need more than stories. They needed the spirit of every person they had touched. And they'd need the resolve to face whatever storm was coming. What awaited them at the town hall? Would it be support or confrontation? Henry's thoughts raced like a wildfire, threatening to consume him as he stood there, the shadows of doubt creeping closer. He could feel the weight of the signatures in his hand, a small victory amidst the chaos. He glanced over at Clara, her face etched with determination. Henry, she said, her tone shifting as she caught his eye. We're not facing this alone. We've got the whole town behind us. His heart swelled at her words. For every worried face they had spoken to, there were just as many eager to join their cause. But was that enough? As the gathering began to disperse, the laughter of children playing nearby faded, replaced by the tense murmurs of adults. We need to put together a plan, Clara continued, her brow furrowed. We can't let Carver derail us. Henry nodded, feeling a twinge of hope. You're right. Let South meet at my place tonight. We need to strategize before the council meeting. With that agreed, Clara began rounding up folks to discuss further plans for their campaign. As the crowd dissolved slowly, Henry took a deep breath. He watched them go, neighbors, friends, and even the concerned faces of those who had doubted. They all wanted change, but change required courage. Suddenly, Sarah waved him over. Henry, wait. I know you're busy, but I wanted to share something, she said, her voice shaky with urgency. What is it, Sarah? His instincts kicked in, her tone was serious. I overheard some things. Mr. Carver has more influence than we thought. He's reaching out to the council members privately. He's pitting businesses against us, and I fear he's preparing a full attack. The knot in his stomach returned, tightening painfully. This isn't just a co-op to him, is it? It's a power struggle. No, she replied, shaking her head. And if we don't come together and counter this, it could hurt us all. The fear in her eyes matched the dread in his heart. What do we do? He asked, feeling the weight of responsibility bearing down on him. Mobilize. Get more stories, bring in more voices. We're stronger together. Her eyes shone with fierce determination. I'll talk to farmers, see if I can rally them to our side. Henry felt a flicker of hope reignite. Yes. That's it. We need to show them the truth why the co-op is vital. As he walked home later that evening, streets quiet and dimly lit, Henry chewed on his thoughts. Community spirit was a strong flame, capable of igniting change. But would it be enough to stand against a man like Carver? That night, gathered around his kitchen table, the air thick with urgency, they exchanged ideas, each member adding fuel to the growing fire. They crafted a plan, deciding to hit the streets with flyers, showcasing not just the benefits of the co-op but personal stories that the council couldn't ignore. But as Clara spoke, fervor burning in her voice, Henry couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the prelude to the storm. Their meeting ended later than he had intended. Thoughts swirled in his mind as he lay in bed, stars twinkling in the midnight sky beyond his window. The council meeting was tomorrow, and the impending battle loomed larger than ever. As sleep finally began to tug at his eyelids, a single thought crept into his mind. What would happen if they lost? The very community they were fighting for could crumble under pressure. The next morning, adrenaline buzzed through him. He would face Mr. Carver, eyes wide open, ready for whatever confrontation awaited. But first, Clara's words echoed in his mind, "We can't let intimidation win." With determination fresh in his heart, he steeled himself for what was to come. Would they find the strength needed to stand against the tide? Would the spirit of their community be enough to break through the storm that loomed ahead? The council hall awaited them, echoing with uncertainty. What awaited them inside those walls? Would they find allies or face the wrath of a divided town? The morning sun spilled into Henry's kitchen, casting a warm glow over the hastily prepared breakfast. The air hummed with tension, a mix of excitement and dread as he flipped pancakes while his mind raced with everything they had to accomplish that day. The council meeting was only hours away, and with it, the fate of the co-op hung in the balance that he glanced at the clock ticking ominously on the wall. It seemed to mock him with each passing second. There was no time for distractions, but the thoughts swirling in his head made it impossible to focus. The memory of Carver's smug face at the last meeting ignited a fire within him. He wouldn't let that man crush their dreams. Just then, there was a knock at the door. It was Clara, her hair slightly disheveled but her eyes shining bright with resolve. "Are you ready?" she asked, stepping inside and instantly filling the room with her presence. "About as ready as I can be," he replied, forcing a smile. "Did you manage to get in touch with the farmers?" "Most of them," she said, a note of uncertainty creeping into her tone. "But a few are still on the fence. They fear what Carver could do if they speak up." Henry felt a pit in his stomach. He knew all too well that fear was Carver's weapon of choice. "What did they say?" he asked, leaning against the counter, crossing his arms tightly. "They want to support us," but her voice trailed off. "But they're scared," he finished for her, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "Yes. We need to show them that standing together is their best chance." "Right." He studied her, admiring her tenacity. "What's the plan to reach out to them?" "That's what I wanted to discuss. I thought we could go door to door in the areas we didn't hit yesterday. If we can share personal stories, maybe that will move them." Just as he opened his mouth to respond, another knock sounded. It was Sarah, quickly followed by a couple of other allies who had rallied behind their cause. The room began to fill with voices, echoes of planning strategies and sharing expertise mingled with the smell of pancakes. As they discussed their tactics, the excitement brewed, but Henry couldn't shake the reality lurking beneath the surface. Carver was powerful, and he would surely prepare an arsenal for their hearing. The more they talked, the more he was aware of that lurking worry. Vulnerability among their community could spell disaster. "Remember," Clara said, her voice cutting through the tension, "we are not just fighting for a co-op. We're showing what it means to stand united." As agreement spread around the room, Henry felt a surge of hope. Everyone nodded, spirits lifting as they reiterated the importance of their purpose. This wasn't just about money or business. It was about heart. It was about their town. "They won't expect us to be this organized," Clara chimed, optimism spilling from her every word. "If we share our stories, our successes and struggles, how can they ignore us?" The clock struck an hour to the meeting, and a hush fell as the reality of the moment settled in. Their collective breaths hung thick in the air. "Let us head out," Henry urged, the adrenaline flooding back through him. "We'll make them see our truth. Whatever Carver has planned, we're ready to face it together." They left the house, determination igniting with every step. As they moved down the street, hopeful chatter filled the air, but doubt still lingered in the back of Henry's mind. What if their efforts weren't enough? As they approached the meeting hall, the shadows of uncertainty crept back in. Would they be able to sway the hearts of the council members before the day turned dark? The doors of the council hall loomed ahead, permanent and imposing. It was time to find out. What awaited them inside? Would they discover unexpected allies just waiting to be found? Or would a storm turn their hopes into ashes? The town hall buzzed with energy as Henry and Clara entered. The room was packed, voices blending into a hum that vibrated with anticipation and anxiety. Henry could feel his pulse quickening, his heart pounding in sync with the uneasiness that wrapped around him like a heavy cloak. Standing at the front, Mr. Carver towered, his presence demanding attention. Henry's stomach twisted at the sight. This was the man who represented everything they were fighting against. Fear began to creep back in what if they truly were no match against the system. "Ladies and gentlemen," the mayor finally called out, bringing the crowd to silence. "Today, we'll hear about the proposed co-op. Let us start with any supporters." Henry swallowed hard, his palms clammy. Clara squeezed his hand, reminding him they were not alone. He caught the eyes of friends in the crowd, faces of determination shining through the worry. One by one, they took the floor. Mrs. Thompson spoke about community and resilience, her voice steady despite the tremors of fear in her heart. Jake shared his vision, emphasizing how this was more than a project, it represented their hope for the future. The stories flowed accounts of struggle, dreams, and most importantly, unity. Then, it was Clara's turn. She stood confidently, her breath steady. "This co-op is about building a future for ourselves and our children. It combats the fears we've all faced, connecting us through shared resources and knowledge." Her voice rang clear, threading through the crowd, creating sparks of hope. Tension mixed with admiration, the room leaning in as if to absorb every word. Henry felt a sense of warmth wash over him, a reminder of the strength they had. How wonderful it was to see their dreams take flight through Clara's passion. As applause erupted, Henry's heart surged with pride, igniting a fire deep inside. With each clap, every cheer, the fear that had swallowed him began to recede. But then, Mr. Carver rose like a dark cloud, ready to overshadow the moment. "While I appreciate the passion here," he began, his voice slick and polished, "we have to approach this with caution. Change is not as easy as it seems, and there are risks involved." A hushed restlessness rippled through the assembly. Henry felt the atmosphere twinge, the undercurrent of worry threatening to pull his resolve apart. "But it is a risk worth taking." Henry heard himself shout, surprising even himself. "We've endured too long in silence. This isn't just about farming, it's about hope. Together, we can ignite change." Silence settled over them. The intensity in his gaze connected with Clara's, then to the crowd, seeing their faces lean in closer, drawn in by his raw vulnerability. "Mr. Carver warned us about what could happen," he continued, emboldened. "But if we don't fight for our dreams, what are we left with? The past has worn us down. What if we choose a different story?" The council members stirred uneasily, glancing at one another, their expressions flickering between skepticism and curiosity. "Let us hear the stories," Clara urged, her voice breaking the lingering doubt. "These are not just dreams, they are our realities." One by one, supporters started to line up, sharing their experiences with a newfound urgency. Names and faces became woven together into a collective desire to rise above their circumstances. The connection in the room was palpable, transforming doubt into collective determination, a tangible force that began to shift the air itself. Minutes ticked by like hours as they spoke, and eventually, even Mr. Carver shifted uncomfortably, uncertainty beginning to creep into his resolute demeanor. "Our community doesn't just want change, we need it," Henry said, summoning every ounce of passion. "We can create jobs, encourage sustainability, and most importantly, make our town a home filled with hope." The applause was thunderous this time. Henry's heart soared. As the meeting wound down, he and Clara stood holding hands, their shadows entwined against the light streaming in through the windows. Their journey wasn't over, but they had shifted tides. They had rekindled a spark that could grow into a flame, and the possibility of success dangled tantalizingly before them, just as they began to feel a sense of victory, the mayor cleared his throat. "We'll take a vote on the co-op proposal next month." A wave of mixed emotions crashed over the crowd. Elation collided with impatience, but as Henry exchanged glances with Clara, he realized they had already won. They stood together, ready for whatever came next, hearts entwined with this incredible community. After the meeting, Henry felt lighter than he had in years. Leaving the hall, he marveled at the resilience that pulsed through the townspeople. They weren't just surviving, they were thriving. "We're stronger now, aren't we?" Clara said softly, looking up at him, radiant with hope. "Yes." Henry couldn't help but smile. "Together, we have a future." As they walked into the sun-drenched streets, laughter floated around them like music. Hope wasn't just a flicker now, it was a blazing fire burning bright within every heart, ready to transcend against any odds. The journey was still long, but they were prepared to face it head-on. They had transformed not just a vision, but the very essence of who they were together. Every hand that joined them, every story shared, added strength to their resolve. "Let us get started on those plans," he said, turning to rally the group, a chorus of supporters behind them ready to charge ahead. This was only the beginning. Their dreams would not be silenced. They were on their way, hearts open wide, ready to face whatever came next, and if you felt inspired by this journey, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and comment below your thoughts and feelings about the ending. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this incredible transformation. Together, let us spread the message.